SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, continuity. The central bank keeps the policy rates the same and says the government has not held negotiations with the IMF on the rapid financing instrument.
It is the government policy to resolve our foreign exchange problems on the basis of domestic effort and also discussions with institutions, organizations and countries on a non-interventionist basis.
Get with the program. The cabinet spokesperson insists that mobile vendors aren't excluded from the tourism plans.
If the vendors are interested, they'll also have to go through the normal procedure.
They have to wear that PP kit and that precaution they should take.
Most wanted. Argument erupts in Parliament over incarcerated Ranjan Ramanayaka's absence from the House.
Parliament has to take steps to enact a law.
Supreme Court can decide what to be given. I don't say right or wrong. That's the law.
No go. The Attorney General tells the President's Secretary that the MCC Compact is inconsistent with the written laws and the Constitution. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Tuesday, the 19th of January 2021.
Buy a 2-litre Coke and get a glass free.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Naik. Now, the central bank today announced that it has once more decided to maintain the standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate at their current levels of 4.5% and 5.5% respectively. Addressing the first monetary policy review online media briefing for the year 2021, Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, was optimistic of the country's economy, saying that he expects it to rebound with a growth of 5 to 6% this year. The governor also confirmed that there are no negotiations with the Sri Lankan side and the International Monetary Fund over the rapid financing facility.
As announced in the roadmap, we are committed to promoting a low interest rate environment in the country on the back of 12 years of single-digit inflation conditions that have been maintained. The Monetary Board considers the current monetary policy environment to be appropriate. Lending rates have declined sharply in 2020, and we expect a further reduction in market lending rates with the high level of excess liquidity that is being maintained in the domestic money market. We have seen an acceleration in private sector credit growth in response to the improving business environment and low interest rates. We do not expect deposit interest rates to decline any further and expect deposit rates on average to provide a reasonable real return. There has been an expansion in credit to the government. The central bank and the domestic banking sector have accommodated this expansion, given the subdued demand conditions and the low inflation environment. We do not envisage a threat to price stability at present. The external sector of the economy has recorded notable developments during the year. The trade deficit is likely to have contracted by over $2 billion. This has been made possible by restricting certain non-essential imports and low global oil prices which prevailed during that period, and a faster rate than expected revival in exports. Workers' remittances have surpassed the $7 billion, exceeding expectations. In spite of meeting the government's foreign debt service obligations of $4.5 billion, official reserves have been maintained at $5.7 billion by the end of 2020. The appreciation of the rupee against the US dollar has been limited to 2.6% during the year. With the COVID pandemic, tourism inflows and financial inflows were severely affected during this period, 2020, and we expect these inflows to recover with effect from 2021, along with improvements in other inflows that were observed in 2020. The government and the central bank are also continuing discussions with bilateral and multilateral partners, internationally and locally. And we are confident that the Sri Lankan economy will continue to display its resilience in spite of the unfounded sovereign rating downgrades that the country experienced in 2020. The turnaround in Sri Lanka's sovereign bond yields, as well as the notable upturn in stock market indices, display the confidence that the global and domestic investors have placed on the Sri Lankan economy and its prospects. We expect the Sri Lankan economy, particularly the production side, to respond favorably to the fiscal and monetary stimuli in place, and also to the novel working environment created by the pandemic. This process has already begun, and we have seen several examples recently of domestic industries and other activities taking off. With these and reflecting the pandemic-driven contraction in 2020, we expect the Sri Lankan economy to strongly rebound in 2021 with a growth of around 5 to 6%. The improvements on the domestic front will help the country to stand on its own and also address the stability concerns that are being highlighted from time to time in a substantial manner.
Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, meanwhile said that the International Monetary Fund and the Sri Lankan side have not held any negotiations on the rapid financing facility, though the government is in talks with the IMF.
Discussions between the Central Bank and the IMF continue on various technical matters in which we have relationships. But on this particular subject of rapid financing instrument, we got the information from the IMF some time ago, but it is generally we have links with the IMF. We continue to discuss problems with the IMF, but not specifically focused on this rapid financing instrument arrangement. We have not started any negotiations for that yet. It is the government policy to work as much as possible to resolve our foreign exchange problems on a self-reliant basis, on the basis of domestic effort and also discussions with institutions, organizations, and countries, which are willing to assist on a relatively non-interventionist basis. And we are also having the policy of finding the foreign exchange requirements on a non-credit increasing kind of, not indebtedness increasing kind of basis. That's the general policy, and I think we are going to be relatively successful in the process as the negotiations which we are carrying on with a few countries and also with a few other international agencies come to successful conclusion in the time to come, in probably the next couple of months.
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
Now, the head of the World Health Organization, meanwhile, is heavily critical of high-income countries for vaccine hoarding, saying that the world is on the brink of a catastrophic moral failure on distributing COVID-19 vaccines. Addressing the opening of the body's annual executive board meeting virtually, Director General of the WHO, Tedros Ghebreyesus, said that the prospects of equitable distribution are at serious risk, while noting that 44 bilateral deals were signed last year and at least 12 have already been signed this year. He said that close to 50 million doses of vaccine have been administered in at least 49 higher income countries, but just 25 doses have been given in one lowest income country.
I need to be blunt. The world is on the brink of a catastrophic moral failure. And the price of this failure will be paid with lives and livelihoods in the world's poorest countries. Even as they speak the language of equitable access, some countries and companies continue to prioritize bilateral deals, going around COVAX, driving up prices and attempting to jump to the front of the queue. This is wrong. 44 bilateral deals were signed last year, and at least 12 have already been signed this year. The situation is compounded by the fact that most manufacturers have prioritized regulatory approval in rich countries where the profits are highest rather than submitting full dossiers to WHO. This could delay COVAX deliveries and create exactly the scenario COVAX was designed to avoid, with hoarding, a chaotic market, an uncoordinated response, and continued social and economic disruption. As the first vaccines begin to be deployed, the promise of equitable access is at serious risk. More than 39 million doses of vaccine have now been administered in at least 49 higher income countries. Just 25 doses have been given in one lowest income country. Not 25 million, not 25,000, just 25.
Now, over 1,000 institutions are in trouble with police for violating health and safety guidelines. Police say that the heads of relevant institutions will face legal action. They also say that to date, over 100 people have tested positive for COVID-19 when attempting to leave the Western province. Meanwhile, there have been over 4,000 repatriations last week alone.
Over the past week, Sri Lanka witnessed a steady increase in its daily COVID-19 cases. With 763 infections confirmed on Sunday, the increasing trend in cases looks set to continue. However, only 627 new cases were reported from the island yesterday, 136 less than the previous day. The Colombo district accounted for 197 of yesterday's infections, while the Gampha district confirmed 165. Meanwhile, 54 infections were reported from the Kurunegala district, 37 from Galle, 33 from Ratnapura, 24 from Matara, 22 from Kandy and 20 from Kalutara. A further 75 cases were confirmed in 14 other districts. The remaining 47 infections involved Sri Lankan overseas returnees. Meanwhile, so far today, 337 fresh coronavirus cases have been confirmed. In the meantime, the country also reported 6 COVID-19 fatalities yesterday after recording 8 the previous day. 4 of the victims identified as residents of the Colombo district. It included a 63-year-old from Colombo 13, whose cause of death was stated as COVID pneumonia and acute diabetes. Meanwhile, an 80-year-old from Colombo 15 had succumbed to COVID pneumonia. COVID pneumonia was also the cause of death of a 75-year-old from Mutwal, while a 63-year-old from Dehiwala had perished owing to bronchopneumonia induced by COVID-19. As for the other 2 deaths, one is a 65-year-old from the Kalutara district who had died due to COVID pneumonia, acute diabetes and heart disease. The remaining victim from Ratnapura, also a 65-year-old, had died due to COVID pneumonia. As the COVID risk in the Colombo district intensified, those leaving the Western province were subjected to random rapid antigen tests. Since the move was put into practice on the 21st of December last year, a total of 103 persons have tested positive. Police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana says that the random rapid antigen tests were conducted at 11 exit points of the Western province. To date, 10,926 persons leaving the Western province have been subjected to rapid antigen tests. What's more, the police also intends to take legal actions against over 1,000 institutions under the quarantine law for violating the prescribed health and safety guidelines.
ඊයේ දිනේදී පමණක් ආයතන දහසකට ආසන්න සංඛ්‍යාවක් පරීක්ෂාවට ලක් කර තිබෙනවා. මෙසේ පරීක්ෂාවට ලක් කර තිබෙන්නේ අදාළ සෞඛ්‍ය ආරක්ෂිත ක්‍රම අනුගමනය කරන්නේදයි සොයා බැලීම සඳහා ආයතන 122ක් පමණ එවැනි කිසිම සෞඛ්‍ය ආරක්ෂිත ක්‍රමයක් අනුගමනය නොකරන බවට පෙනී ගොස් තිබෙනවා. ඒ අනුව මෙම ආයතන 122 පරිපාලකයින්ට විරුද්ධව නිරෝධායන රීතීන් යටතේ කටයුතු කරනවා. මේ මෙහෙයුම පටන් ගන්නු ලැබුවේ පසුගිය ජනවාරි 5 වෙනිදා. මේ දක්වා මෙවැනි ආයතන 1004ක් පමණ එම සෞඛ්‍ය සිරිත් අනුගමනය නොකරන බවට පෙනී ගොස් තිබෙනවා. මෙම ආයතනවල කළමනාකරුවන්ට එරෙහිව නිරෝධායන රීතීන් යටතේ නඩු පවරනවා.
In other developments, Chief of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Army Commander General Shavindra Silva, says that over 4,000 Sri Lankan expatriates were repatriated last week.
ඊයේ දිනෙත් කුවේට් රාජ්‍යයෙන් 300කට ආසන්න සංඛ්‍යාවක් ඇතුළුව 500කට අධික සංඛ්‍යාවක් ඊයේ දිනේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට රැගෙන ඇවිල්ලා තිබ්බා. අද දිනෙත් මේ ආකාරයෙන්ම ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට විශේෂයෙන්ම අරාබි එමිරේට්ස් රාජ්‍යයෙන්, සිංගප්පූරුවෙන්, ඉන්දියාවෙන්, ඒ වගේම කටාර් රාජ්‍යයෙන් මේ ආකාරයට ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට රැගෙන ඒමට නියමිතයි. ගිය සතියට පමණක් 4200කට අධික සංඛ්‍යාවක් අපි ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට රැගෙන ඒමට අපි කටයුතු කරලා තිබෙනවා.
In the meantime, the country's recoveries shot up by 774 today, placing the overall number of recoveries at 46,594. The latest figures from the epidemiology unit places the number of active novel coronavirus cases in Sri Lanka at 7,223.
We will see you once more after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Cabinet spokesperson Kahiliya Rambukwala says that the government is in no way endorsing the so-called Dhammika syrup, which alleges to be an elixir for COVID-19. Addressing the weekly Cabinet media briefing today, Rambukwala also shunned any treatment which is clinically unproven. During the media briefing, it was also revealed that mobile vendors are not excluded from the government's bio-bubble plan for the tourism sector, which comes into play once the airports reopen on Thursday.
What are the international airlines which have already agreed to resume flights?
All the airlines who are willing to come to Sri Lanka, we welcome them. Anybody can come to Sri Lanka. Before the Kuwait situation, there were about 26 flights regularly came to Sri Lanka. During the Kuwait time, it came down to 7 airlines. I'm talking about the passenger airlines, not the cargo. So after 21st of January, we are hoping that all the airlines will come to Sri Lanka.
Then, does it include
all the airlines, country managers, and we have explained how we are going to operate the system, and they have accepted our proposal and they are working on it. And even yesterday we had a discussion with the Emirates, and they are prepared to come to Sri Lanka with the major airlines like Singapore Airlines and other airlines. From last July, we're trying to start the tourism, and we have identified safe and secure system. That's a audit firm that they have done the audit, and tourism board spent for the project, and that's a free of charge for the hotelians, and 153 qualified for safe and secure hotels, and from out of that 53 hotelians, they accepted our offers and they are willing to come as a stage 1 hotel. Stage 1 hotel means that they can't accommodate Sri Lankan, and only the foreigners who come from the first 14 days, they have to spend in that stage 1 hotels. But we have kept it open for the other hotelians. There are about 3,300 hotelians who are registered on the tourist board, and we have given the offer to them as well. But most of the hotelians, they are not willing to take that offer because they are having weddings, etc.
The minister was then asked how the vendors will be kept at bay, especially at beach hotels, which are often frequented by vendors.
We have appointed senior DIG for the tourism. We had a discussion with them because once we identify the hotels, if it's the beach side, the vendors and them, they can't come near that area. So the police will look after that area, and they are given the cover to us.
Subject to correction, if the vendors are interested, they'll also have to go through the normal procedure that the tourist board has put into practice. So if they will not be left out, provided they are willing to come into the scheme.
Then they have to wear that PP kit, and that precaution they should take.
Yeah. With the tourism, there are so many other connected areas where they are benefited. So those people should not be shut off, but giving them the opportunity, but to be within the bubble and also within the regulations that is stipulated by the health ministry.
Then the attention shifted towards the so-called Dhammika syrup, which is alleged to be an elixir for the COVID-19 virus.
There was a question about this Dhammika pannier. One of your colleagues, Minister P.R. Nishantha, who tried this pannier, seems to have been infected by the virus. And also some local councillors in Kegol, his entire family had taken the pannier and also tested positive. This appeared in yesterday's papers. Is it prudent, do you think, that to continue with this idea that this is somehow a cure or something that will prevent people getting the virus?
Nothing is positive in this whole scenario. If you look at even the vaccination, there are cases, people who have taken the vaccination, who says that 94% is success, is being infected. So therefore, it is not a clear, clean proof of being out of it. Even if you take the vaccine, so as this, regard to this pannier, I think we need to go into more details about it. And I don't think the government is promoting that. Every individual has the right to take precautionary measures. But on the other hand, the government has not forced or, officially is permitting to use this or promoting it. That's our position.
But Minister, when you have the speaker taking this front of cameras, doesn't it give a signal that somehow this has some sort of state endorsement even before the trials could be conducted?
I suppose it's an individual's right to use it or not to use it. I mean, you cannot have restrictions, whether it be the speaker or whoever. Now, I was there, I did not take. It's my right, I can decide what I should do. Until it is clinically proved, I don't believe in anything.
In the meantime, a host of decisions taken at the meeting of the Cabinet of Ministers last evening was revealed to media today. Among the decisions announced, the Cabinet had given the approval for the establishment of a unit specified for international cooperation under the subject area of the Ministry of Foreign Relations. The unit will look into the formulation of applicable policies for economic diplomacy. Meanwhile, the Cabinet has also approved the provision of relief to pay electricity and water bills. As such, a 6-month grace period will be provided from the date of the bill to avoid the interruption of electricity connection for the domestic, commercial and industrial electricity consumers within the areas isolated for more than 14 days continuously in order to settle the electricity bills was approved. The opportunity to settle electricity bills from the month of March to December 2020 for film theatres registered under the National Film Corporation in 12 equal installments from the date of the relevant bill was also approved. In addition, an opportunity to settle electricity bills and water bills piled up from the 1st of March 2020 to the 28th of February 2021 for the INS registered under Sri Lanka Tourist Development Authority. In the meantime, the Cabinet has also given the green light to make necessary amendments to the Immigrants and Emigrants Act, Stamp Duty, National Minimum Wage of Workers Act No. 3 of 2016, Community-Based Corrections Act No. 46 of 1999 and Section 33 of the Penal Code. The proposals to make necessary amendments to the Financial Transactions Reporting Act No. 6 of 2006, Prevention of Money Laundering Act No. 5 of 2006, and Convention on the Suppression of Terrorist Financing Act No. 25 of 2005 was also given the nod by the Cabinet. In addition, the Cabinet approved the acknowledgement of sign language as a recognized language and also approved the proposal to make the necessary provisions by an Act of Parliament. Meanwhile, approval was also granted to make necessary amendments to Section 363 of the Penal Code, which touches on statutory rape to suit the present circumstances. The submission of the report compiled by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate incidents of political revenge to the Parliament and to take the necessary steps to implement its decisions and recommendations has also been approved. In the meantime, approval was granted to enter into an MOU between Australia and Sri Lanka with regard to the return and readmission of persons staying in violation of the immigration laws between the two countries.
Now, in other stories, Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira has declared that the Millennium Challenge Cooperation Compact is inconsistent with the Constitution of Sri Lanka. According to the Coordinating Officer of the Attorney General, State Counsel Nishara Jayaratne, the AG has advised the Secretary to the President on the matter via a 20-page document. The Attorney General has found that the MCC Compact and the Programme Implementation Agreement and the Articles of Association of MCC are inconsistent with the written laws and the Constitution. An experts committee appointed by the President, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, to review the proposed MCC Compact in its final report submitted to the government in June last year, urges the government to reject the agreement. You'll see shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira today informed the Secretary-General of the Parliament that the seat of MP Ranjan Ramanayake has fallen vacant due to his conviction and prison sentence. Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Abeyewardene meanwhile said that a period of 3 weeks is required to announce a final decision pertaining to his parliamentary seat. In the meantime, several MPs expressed their opinions over Ramanayake's absence in Parliament.
විශේෂයෙන්ම ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවට අනුව රංජන් රාමනායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු අසුන කිසිම අවස්ථාවක හිස් නොවන බව අපි පැහැදිලිව ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ 66 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථාව, 89 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථාව, 91 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථාව, 105 වන ව්‍යවස්ථාව මේ ව්‍යවස්ථාවන් කොටස් 4 දිහා බලනකොට බොහොම පැහැදිලිව කියන්නට ඕන කිසිම ආකාරයකින් රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමාට එතුමාගේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු අසුන අහිමි වන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා විශේෂයෙන්ම මම කියන්නට කැමති මාස 6කට පසුව මැතිවරණ කොමිසම කියන ආකාරයට එතුමාගේ අසුන හිස් වෙනවා කිව්වත් අපි බොහොම පැහැදිලිව කියන්න කැමති එසේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වුවහොත් ඊට විරුද්ධව ගත යුතු සියලුම නෛතික ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී ක්‍රියාදාමයන් ගන්නට අපි සූදානම්. මැතිවරණ කොමිසමේ ස්ථාවරය එසේ තිබෙද්දී ඇයි අද දවසේ රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමාව මේ ගරු සභාවට හැඳුවේ නැත්තේ?
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි, ප්‍රේමදාල් ජයසේකර මැතිතුමාගේ නඩුවේ අපැල් අධිකරණය පැහැදිලිව කිව්වා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ වාඩි කිරීම ඔබතුමාට අයිති කාර්යයක්. ඒකට කිසිම අධිකරණයකට බැදියත් වෙන්න බෑ. ඒ අයිතිය රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමා වෙනුවෙන් අවධානය යොමු කළා එතුමා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගෙන්න කියලා මම ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා.
The sentence of 4 years rigorous imprisonment is unprecedented and exceptionally severe, and Parliament has a responsibility in this regard because we have not enacted a law for contempt of court. This has an implication to the article in the Constitution that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition just mentioned, because it says for an offence for which the prescribed punishment is 2 years or more. There is nothing prescribed. Nothing prescribed in the law, because for long Parliament has failed to enact legislation for contempt of court. Although there have been in the public realm a lot of instances where even drafts have been made, we have not done that. That is one. And by failing to do that, anything can be given as a sentence, and that's not a good thing. In this case, Parliament has to take steps to enact a law, and in English law itself, scandalizing the court is no longer an offence of contempt of court.
Section 89, subsection 4 is very clear. No person shall be qualified to be an elector at an election of the President or the members of the Parliament, or to vote any referendum if he is subject to any of the following disqualifications, namely, if he is serving the D or has during the period of 7 years immediately preceding completed serving of a sentence of imprisonment by whatever the name called, for a term not less than 6 months imposed after conviction by any court, for an offence punishable with the imprisonment for a term not less than 2 years, or is under sentence of death, or is serving or has during the period of 7 years immediately preceding completed serving of a sentence of imprisonment for a term not less than 6 months, awarded in lieu of the execution of such sentence, provided that if any person disqualified under this paragraph is granted a free pardon, such disqualification shall cease from the date on which the pardon is granted. That's why it's very clear. Honourable Ranjan Ramanayake is presently serving. The Supreme Court is the apex court of this country. Since 1972, we don't have the final any other appeal to the Britain or to the Privy Council. So there no appeal is pending. It is also important that the Supreme Court is given that power in terms of the Constitution itself. Supreme Court of the Article 105, Sub-Article 3. The Supreme Court of the Republic of Sri Lanka and the Court of Appeal of the Republic of Sri Lanka shall each be a superior court of record, and shall have all the powers of such court, including the power to punish for contempt itself, whether committed in the court itself or elsewhere, with imprisonment or fine, or both, as the court may deem fit. Here the power had been conferred on the Supreme Court unlimited. It had been given by this Parliament itself. So until that law is in operation, unfortunately, that there is no contempt law in this country.
There were so many things raised about the Constitution, its meaning, all the rest of it, and I only want to commend the members to read Article 125 of the Constitution, which says the Supreme Court has sole and exclusive jurisdiction to interpret the Constitution. Sole and exclusive jurisdiction to interpret the Constitution. So whatever we may say in this House, eventually the Supreme Court will have to interpret those provisions. But the matter that is been raised and been supported by me is only the non-presence of an Honourable Member of Parliament today in the House.
Honourable Speaker, one matter which I want to clarify, Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Normally under other acts, you prescribe a maximum punishment which could be given for a particular offence. If it is kept open, that means power is enormous. Power is more than that.
So Supreme Court can decide what to be given. I don't say it's right or wrong. That's the law. That's the part of the Constitution. That's how it is now.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.